today, I'm going to be introducing Michael Olszewski, who is a real estate and entrepreneur and also restaurant owner in the city of Chicago. We are going to be discussing today multiple different issues, but one of them being his restaurant that closed in Rogers Park, Onward. And he will be discussing that and several other issues that occurred during that situation and that closure that happened during the pandemic. I'd like to welcome Michael Olszewski to say a few words about his restaurants that have been very well known in Chicago, including Grace Restaurant and a few others that are Michelin star based, and additionally to talk about Onward and its closure that unfortunately happened during the pandemic. Michael, if you can please come on and share more with us.
Cool. Samantha, thank you and good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Michael Olszewski, and thank you for coming. First, I'd like to start out by saying I'm a Loyola graduate. Loyola University is a tremendous learning university. The professors, the teachers, and the instructors there do a wonderful job. As for other departments, which we'll talk about later, you can draw your own decisions. As my background, I'm in real estate. I'm a developer, and I handle properties for the banks and hedge funds, and we make something that's not perform. I've also had Michelin-rated restaurants in the city of Chicago, Grace and Eugen, and I have to say Chicago, for a culinary area, is the top in the country. We have the best chefs, food, venues. It's really, really a great dining experience here in the city of Chicago. My hand goes out to everybody in the city that works so hard in that industry. They do a phenomenal job. As for a case at hand with Onward, Loyola University came to me and asked me to open up a fine dining restaurant in Rogers Park. Now, we all knew this was going to be a tough task because Rogers Park isn't an area that ever had fine dining, is not known for fine dining. So, being a Loyola grad, I was excited, I was honored, and Alderman Moore, who's also here, was involved with this and asked me to come on board and build this restaurant. So I met with the people at Loyola. We talked about what we have to do here and also what would be needed to stimulate the interest and develop the business for a fine dining restaurant in the Rogers Park area. I was excited because it would help the university, the neighborhood, and the city of Chicago to have another wonderful restaurant. When we embarked on this endeavor, there were a couple things that we made abundantly clear, that this wouldn't catch on right away and it was going to take time to season and mature. And they said, no problem, let's work together as a team and let's make this restaurant work. Well, folks from Loyola came to my home. They tasted the food with one of my chefs, and they said, let's go, let's get on board. Well, the space itself, there is nothing there. It was just, there were no floors, walls, it was dirt with pillars, that's all it is. I built this out. I put $1.5 million of my own money to build this out, with the agreement that the improvements to the restaurant would remain mine for 20 years and I own the property. So we had problems just from the beginning. Loyola's capital planning department, not the university, failed to provide electric to the unit. We lost 3.5 months of build-out time. Also, the neighboring store there, they didn't build a demising wall. I had to build that. That was another cost that I incurred. And some of my personal property fixtures and stuff we were going to use to improve the restaurant was removed. So I had about an $80,000 loss opening up the restaurant up and about a 3.5 month delay. So when we first opened up the restaurant, I had a covenant not to compete in my lease. And 2 months later, the hotel was allowed to open up a bar, a restaurant, and a rooftop in direct competition to my restaurant. And my lease provides that I provide to the restaurant beverage and food services, along with the university. So we had nothing but problems after problem with the capital planning department of Loyola. The front of the building was tagged with graffiti. We had, when we opened up the patio, that they weren't cleaning the building and bugs were falling on people's food. People didn't want to eat there anymore. We had a problem with homeless people, which we all have to help the homeless people, but they would sleep out in front and we'd have fecal matter and urine in the front hallway of the door, which would kind of hurt our business. So we really didn't have the support that Loyola promised to give us with this restaurant. Now, Loyola wanted us to provide food services to the restaurant. industry and also the people living living in the area and also in the hotel, they didn't. There was no assistance. So I spoke to Loyola, and I wanted to have some more involvement with Loyola, some more support for Loyola, and the Capital Planning Department was not there. I said, can I talk to President Rooney? And the vice president of the Capital Planning Department said, you don't want to talk with her. She's the worst president we've ever had. We're losing sponsors because of her, and we don't have a provo. So I wasn't getting any support from the university. So as time went on, the pandemic hit. We were 3 months behind on rent. Now, we also paid over $100,000 in rent. So we spoke to Loyola, and they said, don't worry about it. We take care of our businesses here. We gave Life Kitchen, that has a business at the Lakeshore Water Tower campus, a full year rental abatement after they opened. We did the same thing for Argo Tea. So there's no problem. Don't worry about it. We'll work with you on this. And they continually told us that. So when the pandemic hit, we had to close. During that time, I was contacting Loyola to say, hey, let's get together, let's discuss how we're going to move forward and develop this restaurant and make it go after the pandemic lifted. They wouldn't take my calls. We have emails, Loyola emails, that are saying, don't take his calls. Let's wait for a couple of months. Let's take his fireplaces and evict him. Let's take his improvements, which belong to me. So during that time, our business licenses expired. Loyola gave us an eviction notice, and we couldn't operate our business. We couldn't open up back up. We were unable to renew our licenses and open up. Loyola held us hostage with not being able to open up our business. So what took place then was that Loyola filed for eviction, and we had a trial. I never had my day in court because my attorney was ill, and a judge ruled without any trial or hearing our side of the story in favor of Loyola for the eviction. So I didn't get my day in court, and I lost the improvements in this property and this business that I worked so hard to build. And this is a stunning restaurant. It was one of the most gorgeous restaurants on the north side of the city of Chicago. It was beautiful. So there was an order in favor of Loyola, again, without us having any type of say in court, without having my attorneys present, because my attorney was sick and ill and could not make the court date. And I have a paper from the doctor that says this. So an eviction took place. Loyola, and I'll go into this more, Loyola changed the addresses on the building to have an improper eviction performed. The addresses of the building were 6566 or 6590 Sheridan Road and 1209 Albion Avenue. None of those addresses were on the order. They had 6580, which is not the address of the property. So Loyola went out. We have photos of this. They changed all the addresses, and an eviction was performed. Now, we lost the property. We lost the improvements. And the least it's there are my improvements that I own at a point of $1.5 million. Currently, we have a claim for conversion. And Loyola has taken my property that's in there and using it for another restaurant. And I hope the people in the restaurant do very well. I wish them luck, but that's my property. And that's why we're going to court on this. And that's why we have a court date this Monday to I hope, remedy this and find in my favor, because I've been victimized here. As a graduate, I was so proud to open up this beautiful restaurant for Loyola, and it's the greatest place. And they took advantage of me on this. A couple of things I'd like to talk about with Loyola on what we're looking at. They made promises that are in our leases and to me that they didn't fulfill. And again, it's not the university. It's funny, you'll listen to our attorneys talk and say, this fine Jesuit university. The Jesuits had nothing to do with this. This is a capital planning department. And if the Jesuits knew what the capital planning department did, they'd have them in court and confession talking about what they actually did here. I would like to also add that there's preferential treatment. Stores that they put money into that Loyola did the build out, they gave them the rental breaks, not us. Because you know why? I put the money into the restaurant. I did this and it wasn't Loyola's money. And Loyola said, well, we'll throw them out and we'll take the property. And I know this for a fact because during the time when COVID lifted to the time they filed for the eviction, the 4 months, they were marketing this property out to other people and didn't file the eviction until they found someone to take the space. The reason I know this, because the capital planning president is a mutual friend of mine, and his husband told us this. They had found a place, we're going to throw them out now. So they held me hostage here for this restaurant that would have been great for the community, the city, the university, and the neighborhood. And this is wrong, and it's something that needs to be changed and corrected. It was great for Rogers Park. We hired people from the community, students from the university. It was a win-win for everybody. But Loyola did not operate in that manner and did not want to follow through with the promises they made to me. I mean, look at when we were doing a build-out. They paid Argo T next door to me $12,000 to build the wall. They never did. I had to build that wall. And that cost me, I think it was $20-some thousand to build that wall. And that was something Loyola should have done, and it delayed my build-out. And they're going to say, oh yeah, we gave Olszewski a rental abatement of 1 year. There's no rental abatement because there's nothing to lease. You couldn't operate a business nor get a business license in the condition the property was when they turned it over to me. Again, there was nothing there. There's no plumbing, electrical, wall, ceiling, floors. The city wouldn't have issued a license. The Liquor Commission wouldn't have issued a license. So there was nothing to lease. And they're going to say, oh, the rent is at below market value. The rent was at top market value at this time. As a realtor, I know what the rental values are for properties in that area. There is no discount. You know, and I asked Loyola, I said, why don't you contribute to this build out? And he said, okay, we'll contribute. We'll give you $500,000, but we want $1 million back in 10 years. That's debt service we couldn't incur to do. I mean, that's something we couldn't pay back, and it'd be a financial struggle to do this. I also would like to add that the way Loyola's capital planning department operated and what they've said, I mean, we have emails, Loyola emails, where they're making disparaging comments about me, about things that were done in a restaurant. And it's just, and this is on Loyola's emails. This is what we're contending with here when we went into this, prior to this business agreement. After this is what they were doing. They had no intention of working with me. They had no intention of making this a phenomenal restaurant, which we could have done. We're at the point where I think after COVID, it was just about to catch on. We would have had a Michelin-rated restaurant in Rogers Park. We would have had that for the university and the community, and it would have been a great feat for everybody, and a great place for people to come to. And talk about a little more about Loyola's capital planning department. 5 years after the hotel opened, they didn't have the fire suppression system backup operating. They had to come into the restaurant, cut out the ceiling, and install this. So what happened, if there's a fire in this building, the sprinkler system didn't work. It's when the fire department comes out and hooks up to those big nozzles out, they weren't connected. Another thing with Loyola's capital planning department, which is, I don't know how they operate. It's just incomprehensibly inconceivable how derelict they are in what they do. They have to be losing money. It doesn't make any sense. In the wintertime, I said, you need to winterize the exterior of the property. Guess what? They didn't do that. So the water was exploded, pipes exploded, and was gushing all over the sidewalk. And we have a lot of senior citizens in Rogers Park. They had to walk over to water and ice, and it was running for a week. They had to come into the restaurant, rip out the beautiful marble walls we had to correct something that they didn't do. And this is the problems we had with Loyola. The capital planning part was unbelievable. They blocked off the restaurant on a Friday to do repairs on the building. We couldn't open up on a Friday. I mean, it was one thing after another where Loyola was not doing their job. They're the ones that caused this business not to operate efficiently and perform and to be successful. And again, it's not the university, it's the capital planning department, which I find it's they need to be held accountable, and that's the reason for what I am doing here today. It's a matter of principle, and I don't know how many other people they've done this to, but it needs to stop. And it's not right, and that's the purpose of my lawsuit and why I'm filing this. Again, for this university to go out on an eviction order and change the addresses to fool the sheriff's department, intentionally, not by accident, because they went out and they changed it, because one of the addresses was 6572 Sheridan Road, which was a business license for the city of Chicago to hang our awning because we're over public space. They went and changed all those addresses in a very deceptive, deceitful manner. And this they need to be held accountable for. I don't know if it was Loyola and their attorney. I think it's both of them, and both of them need to be held accountable for those actions. And they don't even have the proper addresses on this. They don't even know what they're doing with their own property, their own real estate, and their own leases. And this is what we're dealing with. And as I'm a donator. I've donated thousands of dollars to this school. My children have went there. I went there. Family members have went there. It's very disappointing, and it's not right. And I was so proud of this place. It was such a beautiful place, and to have this end up like this is wrong, and it needs to be changed, and it needs to be corrected. I'm just checking over my notes. I think I've covered everything I want to cover on here. And if anybody has any questions, please let me know. And I appreciate this opportunity, everybody. Thank you very much. And we'll see what happens Monday. We will prevail Monday. Thank you.
Can you share what happened with Grace and why did it shut down suddenly?
Sure, I'll tell you about that. First of all, Grace was the most, in my opinion, most phenomenal restaurant in the city of Chicago. This was my first venue into a restaurant, building it. I'll be quite frank with you, I didn't know the difference between a turnip and a tangerine when I went into this. But I went to the top 3 restaurants in the city of Chicago at that time. It was True, L2O, and Alinea. I said, we have a product that can compete. I built this gorgeous restaurant, and we opened up. And we did first month we lost, I have to tell a story. First month we lost $30,000. I said, oh my gosh. I said, I put all this money and we're losing money. What's going on, guys? And I looked and I saw that our financials weren't being taken care of correctly. Like there was a box of gloves we had a bill for $250. I called the purveyor. I said, why are you giving them a better price than my restaurant? Not knowing this, just using good business sense. And I got the box of gloves for $50. So I knew I had to go on. I averaged saving with the ordering, checking prices, over $500,000 a year. So it was a good producing restaurant. The first 4 years was great at Grace. Wonderful. And then we had some problems. And I'm not going to go into the food poisoning case that we had that I didn't know about. I'm not going to go over the sanitation fines that we had, but it was time for us to make a change. So the two main partners, I'm not going to mention their names, employees that were going to partner with me, I said, guys, buy the restaurant for me. So I sold the restaurant. They had an investor. We sold the restaurant, and I told everybody, by the end of December 2017, I'm out. So you either need to buy me out or I'm closing the restaurant. Well, their investor said, he looked at the Schedule C, he goes, this is performing real well. And he bought some of my real estate that I sold. He goes, why are you selling it, Mike? I said, I'm not a restaurant guy. It's time for me to get out. And a couple of weeks before we closed, he goes, I know why you're selling it. I wouldn't want to work with these guys either. So that's and I never disclosed this before, but I think now it's about time people know the truth. And I'm not going to go into the food poisoning. This is the city violations, and $10,000 of my Wagyu beef missing. That's very expensive. It was just time to cut ties and move on. I gave them an opportunity to buy the restaurant. They had a buyer. They couldn't perform. It was time to shut down. That's the sole reason why it closed. Grace closed. And that's the true facts.
How did you try to help the homeless at Onward? What were some of your ideas?
Well, the idea is, first of all, it's incumbent upon all of us to help the homeless. And I'm bringing my children up. We'd go in the city and we'd show people fall in hard times. And we would give socks and just water and food, not money, because sometimes the money's not used in the best places, but we'd show this is how you have to help people. So there we'd have food packages, and we'd bring it around the back and say, hey, here's some food. We had, we leftover food that we didn't sell that night, and we'd give food to the homeless. It's a good thing to do, and they appreciate it. It's heartwarming and endearing to do something that you're making an impact on something that counts more than money, more than success. You're helping somebody that really needs help.
Anything else you want to add?
Just that, yeah. As of this week, Loyola is still asking me for contributions. Okay, they're still asking me for money. I've donated before, and I'm still getting requests from Loyola for money. I think if they paid that much attention to the operation of Onward. We would have a successful restaurant. We'd be talking about what's the newest product we're putting out, what are we offering, what kind of specials, instead of having this litigation, which they're responsible for, which they're going to be made liable for their misdeeds.
Well, we're going to introduce Morgan Olszewski, and she's going to share a few words about her dad.
Love you. Good morning, everyone. As you probably put two and two together, this is my father, Michael Olszewski. And there's no denying he's my father. I have unwavering admiration and love for my father. He has given my family and I the world, even my mother as well. I mean, both of them working parents as we were kids, but providing for us to give us everything they possibly could, and also setting the example of what hard work and dedication looks like. You can work 12 hours in a day, but you still can show up for your kids and be there for a softball game and be there for a soccer game and really commit to your family. So me growing up as the oldest, it really set the standard of how I wanted to live my life and what I wanted it to look like. And again, people might say, well, he's your father. Obviously, it's unwavering, bias, whatever it might be. But I've also had the opportunity to work with my dad for the last 8 years. So not only do I see him as a father figure, but he's also a business partner. And again, business is not easy. People go into business with a dream and a hope to make something work, and that's exactly what he does. However, he does not sacrifice the well-being of the people that work with him. There's one thing you need to know about my dad, which many people on the internet don't really care about. You'll read an article about grace, so you read an article about something and already make an assumption that my dad is this money-hungry man, which is exactly the exact opposite, to be quite frank. And if you have a different opinion, that's fine, but I would suggest you do your research on who he is as a person before jumping to conclusions. My dad would give the shirt off his back for anybody. He quite literally did, going to a Blackhawks game when he saw someone standing on the side of the road, got out of his car in the middle of traffic, gave them the jacket, and we went on our way. So his unwavering care and dedication for those around him is very, very important. And working with him in a business circumstance, again, is never easy. We also challenge each other very well to be the best that we can be every single day and looking at things from two different perspectives. But I will say, from working in hospitality with my father to working in real estate now, there's nothing he wouldn't do for his team. People automatically, once again, assume that he's here just to make money and stuff like that. And again, any business person wants to make money, but he's not willing to sacrifice the respect, the integrity, and the well-being of his employees for money. You know that by, for example, as we talked about the different restaurants, Onward being an incredible restaurant. I'm a Loyola alumni as well. And he bent over backwards to try to get this place reopened, trying to figure out what we can do to go, takeout, so our employees could have a job during a pandemic where they went 6 months without having a job. And laying off a team is something you never want to do. We had to do it twice with both of our restaurants, Eugen and Onward, and it is the most gut-wrenching and sickening feeling you could probably ever experience in your life. Let alone having to do it twice when we were able to reopen and close again. But again, he bent over backwards to create this environment, this culture that even during the pandemic when we weren't opening and operating, our employees came to us if they needed something. We still talk to Vicente, who is our general manager of the restaurant, and he is like a big brother to me. He is family to us. He spends the holidays with us. He is there through everything with us, and we adore him to no end. But that's also the culture and the relationship that we developed at our restaurants and at every single establishment that we operate out of. Our employees are our family. They're not just a number. They're just not someone that can be replaced. People have values and lives beyond work, and that is something that my father and all of us take into big consideration. And again, creating this culture of what we want the workplace to look like is very important to us. So with these articles that are being written about my father that have been written since Grace, I really hope that people take the time to, you can read the article and form an opinion, but also do your research and your education to figure out what the man he really is. And again, this is where we're at in this circumstances, but again, if you take the opportunity to get to know my father, and I guarantee you any of the employees that we have worked with, that we still connect with and still talk to, will speak nothing but the best of my father and his initiatives and respect and love for his team. So once again, you're welcome to form your own opinion from this press conference to another, to any article you've seen from 2011 till now. But I do ask that you make an informed decision and an honest and reparable decision on who my father is. So I'm welcome to take any questions at this time regarding to anything that I spoke about or so far. But again, thank you all very much for your time and attention and just patience this morning. Our family is strong. I will say that, saying sticks and stones may break their bones, but words will never hurt me. This doesn't impact our family. Obviously it does, because no one wants their name dragged through the mud based on a few people's opinions and their opinions with, reporters and whatnot. And again, I just ask people from their own opinions, but our family is so strong that it's almost like white noise to us. It's one of those things that does not impact our day-to-day routine. And to be quite frank, the reason why it doesn't do that is because people know the family that we are. And for those who read the article, just don't know us as people. And again, our family is one of a kind, and I love and adore them. Like, our family is everything to us. It is the most important thing, and that is how we have been raised. And again, do you read the articles and do you see stuff? Absolutely. You can't, during many of the times, you can't really avoid it. And it's just unfortunate that our family gets, especially my father, turned into this kind of villain in a way. And again, everyone's entitled to their opinions, but there's never another side to a story here. It's always one side, and this is what it looks like. But to recap and answer your question, it has not impacted our family. Is it unfortunate? Absolutely. And do we enjoy having our name all over the place in regards to stuff that is not factually true at all points? Absolutely not. But being that our family has so much love, strength, and dedication to one another, throughout anything that has gone on, it has not had any irreparable impact on our family. If not, we're stronger than ever because we love each other so much. And as you get older, you continue just to develop and grow stronger relationships. So again, white noise to a lot of us at the end of the day.
Anything to add about the pandemic and how it had affected business?
Absolutely. I mean, I worked at Eugen, our one Michelin star restaurant in the Loop, and also worked at Onward. And to have the rug ripped out from underneath you on a Sunday evening saying you're closing and there's no further updates, it's hard. I mean, you're talking about employing close to 100 different people at 2 locations and everyone coming to you for answers of what's next, what are we doing? And we had no information as well. And that's the hardest part. And these are people, again, the culture that we have created at these restaurants is second to none. They're family to us. Working in hospitality, those who have worked in it understand you spend more time with the people you work with than you do your own families. And you build such a close bond, and having to sit down and have 2 conversations with 2 teams, laying off people, to this day is one of the worst things that I will ever have to experience or go through. So again, it has a detrimental impact on business. And luckily for us, Eugen, we had the opportunity to reopen, and we were busier than ever. And it's, again, to this day will be one of the most impactful experiences and learning experiences at that point that I've ever experienced in my life. And it's very unfortunate that Onward was not able to have its, second life going through stuff because we didn't have any foundational support as we were promised. So it's a challenge. But again, you learn from those challenges and you become better. I mean, life's going to throw a bunch of different things at you, so you have to understand how to pivot and adjust and learn how to do what's next. So it's a big growing experience for us, but also a great opportunity to learn how things will continue to grow and develop under the different circumstances that we deal with day in and day out. Awesome. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate your time this morning.
I want to thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to have Michael Olszewski talk one more time just about restaurants within Chicagoland area. As you know, Chicago is a restaurant area. That's why people come here. And unfortunately, again, I know this is a pandemic story, which not everybody loves, but it is something that we do need to be talking about because COVID-19 impacted a lot of businesses. And some small businesses did thrive throughout that specific area, but others were hurt, and Onward was one of them. And there are multiple other restaurant owners who would come today and say the very exact same thing. Chicago is trying to come back, but with that is many challenges. As we know, the minimum wage is going to be increasing, which is fantastic for those who do need that money and deserve that money. It is difficult, though, for business owners who have W-2 employees to continue their business without more support and help from those who actually come and frequent those restaurants. I want Michael to just touch upon the economy within the restaurant industry and the opportunity in which he will prevail, regardless of this case or not. He does plan to open up another restaurant, so to be continued in that regard within the West Loop of Chicago. But I want him to just close it out, as he does want the business owners who are currently in the space to do very well and congratulate them. He doesn't want anything negative in that regard, but he does want to get his story out. So I'd like him to close it out with a few positive points right now about how business is trying to come back within the city of Chicago, within the restaurant space, and that he will continue to have opportunities within that space regardless of Onward or not. And then we're going to wrap up for today, and we appreciate you joining. Thank you. Michael.
Thank you very much. Well, first I'd like to tell all the people in the restaurant industry, work hard, don't give up, and you have self-confidence in what you're doing. Look at how you're operating your business, take care of your employees, and look for a product that people will want in the community, that your marketplace that you're working in. The biggest thing is count your expenses and limit your expenditures that aren't needed. I think Chicago is a wonderful, thriving market. When Grace was open, I was very fortunate. We were instrumental in bringing James Beard to Chicago. I worked with Mayor Emanuel. They came to our restaurant, and we were one of the deciding factors that brought the James Beard Awards to our wonderful city, which is great. Chicago, again, I'm going to say, I've been to New York. I've been all over the country. We've got a good dining experience. We have the most talented people in the country here in the city of Chicago, offering a wonderful experience for people that will need a night out. They need a break from the daily hustle and bustle and work. And I wish all you very well. And you're going to succeed. And you've got my support. And I just want to say, keep at it and keep on working hard. In closing, I'd like to say, very proud of you, Morgan. Wow. When your children turn out better than you do, you see as a father and a parent. And I love you too, honey. And I just want to say, I married the greatest lady in the world. And my 3 children are the best. And I've been blessed by God to have them. And I don't cry. I've got an allergy, so don't say I'm crying, all right? I just want to say, everybody, thank you very much. And we'll see what happens on Monday. And people in the restaurant business, keep on working hard. Don't give up. Thank you very much.